All right, we'll call the Waterworks and Lighting Commission meeting to order. 1.1, reorganization of officers and committees. Well, I have to turn, since I'm the acting chairman, I have to turn the meeting over to Joe Kozecki to elect a chairperson for the next year.
Okay, then as I said, at this point, I would like to take nominations for chairman of the Water and Light Commission.
I would nominate Tom Nowak for chair.
Do you need a
I
second?
would like to, again, ask for nominations for chairperson.
You don't need a second on it, though. Okay.
And then the third time, I'd like to take nominations for a chairperson for the Water and Light Commission. Okay, so then we have a,
Need a second, we need a
Now
vote.
I do.
are there any other nominations?
Now I do have to go for more nominations, then I need a second.
Second, yep,
I seconded it, yeah.
Okay.
okay.
Okay. And we'll take that up for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Tom, it's back to you.
Okay, thanks.
The suspense was really,
Thank you, fellas. Okay, now we have to elect a secretary. So I'd like to open nominations. Does somebody like to nominate one of the group for secretary of Waterworks and Lighting Commission?
I'd like to nominate Joe.
Okay, we have Joe nominated. Would somebody like to nominate one of the committee people for secretary of the Waterworks and Lighting Commission? And again, I need a nomination for the secretary for the Waterworks and Lighting Commission. If not, the nominations, I believe, are closed, and we would need a second.
I'll
I'll
second
second
that.
it.
I think I beat you.
You did.
Okay, we have all those in agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Joe. Congratulations.
Thank you. You think?
All right, now we have to go through the committees. First, do we have to do that 3 times also? For finance? Yeah, we have to do it 3 times. Okay, nominations for the committees. The first is finance.
Was that plural or singular?
2 on each committee. 2 on each committee.
Okay.
I'll nominate Mike Phillips for finance.
Well, then I need my buddy John as a backup. Can I nominate him?
You sure can.
I nominate John Bergen.
Okay, and nomination for John. And again, I'm looking for nomination for the Finance Committee. And would anybody else like to nominate somebody for the Finance Committee? If not, the nominations are closed, then I would like a second for John Bergen and Mike Phillips on the Finance Committee.
I'll second that.
Joe did.
Okay, all in agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, now we have personnel. I'm looking for a nomination for 2 people for the Personnel Committee.
I would nominate Rick Murdan.
Okay, we have a nomination for Rick Murdan on the Personnel Committee. I would need another nomination. I'll nominate John Bergen for the Personnel Committee.
Thank you.
Another nomination for the Personnel Committee? If not, I'll say that the nominations are closed, and I guess we need a second, is that?
Yeah, you
Okay,
know.
second. And all those in agreement with Rick Murdan and John Bergen on the Personnel Committee, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, now Building and Grounds. I am looking for nominations for the commissioners to be on the Building and Grounds Committee.
I'll nominate Rick Moran.
Okay, we have a nomination for Rick Moran. I'm looking for another nomination for the Building and Grounds Committee.
I'll take it one more time.
I'll nominate Mike.
Okay, we have Mike.
I'm not gonna let the new man ruin what I started there.
You are a tiger with respect to building and grounds.
I need another nomination for Building and Grounds Committee. If not, the nominations are closed. And we have Rick Murdan and Mike Phillips for Building and Grounds. All those in favor, please say aye. I'm sorry, we need a second.
Second, I'll second.
Okay, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Thanks, fellas.
All right,
So now we can go on with the rest of it.
down to your task.
Oh, that's a difficult one. Yeah, 3 times.
Yes.
All right, we need approval or corrections or additions to the special meeting, commission meeting held on October 14th, 2015.
I make a motion we accept it as,
Okay, we have a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second that.
We have a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, number 2, special commission meeting held on October 14th, 2015.
I move we accept their report as filed.
Okay, Rick made a motion to accept the report. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Joe Kazicki second that. Those minutes. Is there any discussion? If not, all in agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, special commission meeting held November 4th, 2015.
I move for approval of the minutes from the special committee on November 4th.
Okay, John Bergen made a motion to accept the special meeting commission, the special commission meeting minutes held on the 4th.
I'll second that.
Joe Kazinski seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, action items. Do you have any action?
We do not today.
Okay.
Took a lot of action last week on the budget.
Okay, very good. Department updates. Safety committee. Are there any questions?
no, but under safety, I would like to make a comment.
Go ahead.
I'd like to compliment them on the lights they have on their trucks. Safety was at the top of my list coming in here, because I'm from the old school, and a little cone 2 feet high is what protected us out there in the highways. And now when you come down the street, you know where water and light is, because you can see them.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anybody have anything else?
Is there any update on the backup camera? Is that,
It's here. It's just a matter of getting a time for the mechanic to put it on the truck when the truck is available for a lengthy period of time. So,
do new trucks come with those now? You think they would?
The newer
yeah,
ones.
yeah, we're with them now.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's gonna be a standing down the road or not, I don't know.
Anybody else? If not, we'll go to the line superintendent report.
What's happening with this directional bores on Mead Circle? What's the story with that?
Well, what we got is some poles along Mead Circle that are all rotted out. So when they looked into the project of replacing the poles or directional boring it, it made more sense to directional bore it because there's no truck access on that lot line. So the bore is done. Now it's just a matter of converting it, which we can do anytime now that the bore is done. So it'll be something we'll do in winter.
Anybody else have a question? If not, the water department operations?
This Chestnut Street project, everything goes satisfactorily there?
Yeah, overall went well. I mean, everything's all done. I believe all the dirt work and everything else is all done. The guys cut the curb boxes off and stuff, so our portion's done.
This is our end of things, but I understand they're gonna line the pipes. When is that gonna start, do you know?
They won't line the sewer pipes until next year.
Next year?
Yeah.
What about the electrical work you had to do there? Is that any adverse consequences or whatever that we,
Just the cost and the time that it took to do it for them before the project. But that was all done prior to the project even starting.
Yeah, most of that work was done in June.
Yeah.
Anybody else have a question? If not, let's go to the office manager report. What's that?
I'm behind one.
compliments on the trends in collections?
Thank you.
Continues to look great.
It's a busy year, but I felt like we got a lot done.
I think it's incredible when we talk about the number of calls, the number of disconnects that are taking place, and the amount of work that has to go into that.
Well, is there a trend, or is it just that one number? Is the trend of disconnects going up, the number of?
Yeah, it has been trending up. If you looked, say 10 years ago, I mean, the level of disconnecting we do now is noticeably higher.
Even these 3 years show a trend up.
Yep.
And you got, I mean, other than the obvious, again, any other reasons or contributions to why that is happening?
Well, I think, especially for this year, I think, you know, the change, we made a tariff change with Public Service Commission to allow us to not have to offer deferred payment agreements continually. And I think that's served to be like a natural endpoint for some customer service.
Okay.
So I think that's, you know, driven the number a little bit this year. You know, it's, I think it's a reflection too of the local economy.
All right. Thank
And
you.
I think since Jerry's arrived and you working with him, I think we've been a little more diligent the last couple of years as well, as far as staying on top of it.
It's helped having, I think this is Jerry's third disconnect season, and there was some turnover in that spot in the preceding couple of years, and that doesn't help. Anytime you're starting and stopping with your disconnect cycles, it's you just lose momentum. And so yeah, it's been nice to have Jerry in that spot.
All right, well, good. Thank you, Joe.
Anybody else? If not, Director of Finance will report.
Anything interesting on this utility university?
Yeah, the discussions with the Public Service Commission were particularly good whenever you have the opportunity to, you know, one-on-one interact with your governing body. It definitely helped. They're revamping our whole reporting system coming up for this year, and it's not out yet, but they gave a preview of it, so it was nice to see what's coming down the road in the next couple of months.
Any major impacts for us?
There's some new reporting requirements. It's just reporting the data differently. We have to report our water main by decade now when it was installed, so we'll have, they have a better picture of the state's infrastructure that way. And just a few reports like that, that'll be more information that we have to put in there, but
But we have the data.
we'll have the data.
Anybody else? If not, Information Systems Administrator.
How's the mobile application going this week, right?
We ran into a glitch, so the timeline got pushed to the 23rd.
Is that a technical term?
It is. Glitch is definitely a technical term. Yeah, we won't be launching until the 23rd. We have some issues to work out with NISC with the application, and we have to wait for the devices to arrive as well.
Someday maybe, when it gets rolling, you have to show us how it performs with the guys.
All right.
We've been talking for it so long, but I guess I have to see something to, really understand it. Conservation Manager report.
Is Oak Creek Family Farms, is that within our service? Where is that?
In Clover, pretty much.
Yeah, it's on Highway 54, so, but Oak Creek is actually fed from WPS, right, Josh, or not?
I believe we have a few of his pivots out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, on that one side of the road, we serve all the way up to basically almost Clover.
Oh, okay.
That was part of the urine purchase a while back.
Anybody else? If not, Director of Engineering and Electric Operations report.
Nice pictures, Todd.
Thank you. Moses actually took most of them for
Nice pictures, Moses.
Moses did a nice job leading that project, so I'll let him answer any questions if you have any.
You know that picture with the clouds on the background over there? That's fantastic. I was eating my hamburger and looking at that, and I had to stop eating it.
So what was
Good job, Moses.
What was the capital cost on that project?
We had budgeted $200,000. Now we don't have all of the costs back yet, all of the invoices, or all the hours added up, but I think we're going to be pretty close to where we were at.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else? If not, we'll go to the General Manager's report. I have a question. The City Finance Committee Chair and you and Jeff had, and I guess I wonder what was...
Well, we typically, the last few years, we've found that it's worked a little easier is to bring in the city finance director, chair in, who was Terry Dolan this year. So we brought him in and gave him a tour of the facility, kind of preliminarily how we budget different than the city, and allowed him to ask any questions that he might have or whatever. And it just seems to work smoother when we actually get up to City Finance Committee. And last night when we were there, it went through in 10 or 15 minutes, a couple questions, and we were out of there. So it went smoothly.
I see one of the things that the difference between how the city and utility prepares budgets.
Well, we're standard, a big difference. I mean, we're basically all PSC and FERC-based accounting, activity-based accounting, and accrual accounting, where the city's all on a cash basis. And they don't do any activity type planning or accounting. It's all line item type stuff.
You wanted to talk also, Jim, a little bit about the ATC discussions? And
Well, as you
what the
know,
projects might be and so on.
right, I mean, I think it was either the last commission meeting, we, did what we had to do to execute the agreements to stay out of their investments outside the service territory. And as a matter of fact, ATC is going to have a board of directors meeting next week to basically approve. All the munis and co-ops have gotten all their documentation back to ATC. So they're going to hold a board meeting to officially propose the separation and authorize the regulatory filings. So they will be filing within the next couple weeks with both PSC and FERC to get approval for their restructuring. The other part of the discussion was, I'm sure you're aware, and we briefly talked about it, I think, in our budget meeting last week, but ATC has been, a couple years ago, ATC received a FERC complaint. Actually, all the transmission owners in the MISO received a FERC complaint that transmission rates were too high, they were earning too high a rate of return, and the rate of return they were getting was about 12.5%. So that battle is still going on at FERC. They tried several negotiating meetings to try to get the parties to resolve this prior to them making a decision, but according to the ATC rep I met with this in October, they're saying that it doesn't look like there's going to be any settlement, so FERC will probably end up ruling on that by spring of next year. The people that filed the complaint, the interveners, which are industrial customers mainly, want to see the return around 8 or 9%. Naturally, ATC would like to keep it around 12, so they're thinking that FERC will land somewhere in the middle, around the 10 to 11% range. ATC's actually been withholding about a quarter of the earnings they're supposed to pay to the IOUs and munis, because if this thing settles and it's not in their favor, they're going to have to go back retroactive to the date that it was filed and adjust all the rate tariffs on their transmission. So that's essentially what we reviewed in that meeting, and then the construction of the Badger Coulee line, which should start early next year.
Okay, so that's the only piece. And I see we had a call for investment as well.
We get them once a quarter for capital calls, and then 2 days later they turn around and give us our dividend check. So
Where is it, obviously when you do that, they tell you which project it is. What was the last project,
they typically keep a summarized of what projects they're doing and the year they're planned and what construction is going to take place, but the particular capital calls for all the projects for that quarter.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else? If not, review the accounts payable. Jeff, I have a question on, it's not about accounts payable,
Sure.
but you mentioned that we had a loss for the month. Is that just the way the bills happen to pile in on 1 month? Then
There's always going to be that shoulder month, and I mean, this year we've got, if you look at power bills this year compared to last year, it's about $200,000 higher this year because we haven't hit that lower amount yet. We also had the additional financing costs hit in September. So those two things together was about $300,000, which swung that to a loss this month.
If you recall September, the problem with September, early in the month, the reason why our power bill was so high, our load factor was crap that month, because essentially the first several days of September were pretty warm, close to the 90s, so there was still a lot of air conditioners running, and then it dropped immediately, so we didn't get enough kilowatt hours underneath our peak demand in order to flatten that out, so to speak. So that's why it was, and we didn't have enough consumption to bill out. So that's why the power bill was higher than previous years.
Thanks.
The other question, as I look at some of these accounts payable, what's happening to our, what I would call stores inventory on a total basis? Is it flat?
So our inventory that we're keeping in-house?
Right.
They stay pretty consistent. I mean, particularly if you look at like the water side, we buy a lot of our water pipe at the beginning of the year and then they use it up during the year. On the electric side, it's kind of the same thing. You've got your big pole and your big transformer purchases at the beginning of the year, but they start whittling down so you don't have as much inventory in December as you do like in May or June. So we try to keep that number a little bit lower because we do end up paying pilot on that inventory number each year.
So, but if you look over 3, 4, 5 years, what does it look like?
I believe it's actually trending slightly down. You know, I would say probably a couple of years ago, electric inventory at the end of the year was right around $1 million. I believe in the budget we estimated it's going to be right around 940 to 950,000. So it stays pretty consistent, but it's starting to trend down a little bit. We've taken a lot of the obsolete inventory out of the system that's been on the books for several years, so that number is probably a pretty good number of where that's going to sit for a couple of years.
First few years we were here, me and Todd, I mean, the inventory levels were a lot higher because we were ordering so much stuff to fix everything and rebuild it. So I think I concur with Jeff that it's been trending down lately because we've been, you know, our capital expenses have only been, you know, between, on the electric side, $1 million to $1.5 million, where when we first got here, we had years where it was $6-7 million a pop. So probably trending down.
I know too, John, when I did get here, first got here, we did not have a lot of spares on some of our key pieces of equipment, larger transformers and such. And so we have now gone and made sure we've had a spare of every piece. So that's probably why that number is staying in that $900,000 range.
Okay.
Got a question on the accounts payable, page 4-6, Joel. And I don't know the requirements, but we're still sending out paper bills, right?
Mm-hmm.
And is
People
that
do have the opportunity, they can.
Oh, they can?
They can sign up for e-bills.
Okay, all right. And what is that ratio?
It's about 20 to 25%.
Okay.
You're talking true paperless customers, there aren't many.
There what?
There are not many.
Okay.
If you're talking electronic transactions.
No, not that, right.
Right, we're
It's
getting
that.
the 50% mark on that.
But people that truly
But
just get...
truly paperless customers, we haven't made that push yet. We've had internal discussions the last year or so about doing that. And we're thinking probably in the spring or sometime over the winter, one or the other. But it's on the near-term horizon to make a push for customers to switch to paperless.
Terrible thing for
Excuse me?
paper makers.
Well, no, but, and I know, and I'm coming from a background like that, but it wouldn't be because of, you know, I got an issue with when they do that because of environmental concerns, right? We're gonna do that, but as a cost saving and as a customer desire, right? If a customer desires that, I didn't even know if that was possible or if there was some legislation that says you gotta send a paper copy or.
If they can opt into...
Yeah, we got a suite of online tools where a customer who chooses paperless can access their account and see their entire billing history, payment history, and see an actual electronic representation of their bill.
Right.
They get an email notification that tells them their bill is ready.
Right.
And yeah, so that it's all out there, but we have not made that push yet.
We've made the push to get, you know, the debit card transfers
Right.
from checking accounts, and when you talk to other utilities in the state, which surprises me for Rapids, we have a pretty high number of people doing that percentage-wise than most of the other utilities in the state, which was surprising for me with the demographics here and everything else. But we have never, like Joel said, made the push for people to go paperless yet. We've advertised the suite on the NISC product that we were available, and they can see all their stuff and initiate a service order and all those things online now. but haven't made the push to ask if they actually wanted to see a bill, so.
And are there any negative ramifications if you're going, what if it's called ACH or whatever? What happens if there's no money in the account?
It comes back as an NSF essentially.
Okay,
No different than a check that's bounced.
okay.
We get a few of those a month, but I mean, the number, we've got a lot of people that pay ACH, and the relatively handful that come back is definitely worth it.
Are there any other questions about the accounts payable?
I forgot where it came from, but is this safety arc flash shield, that's the new OSHA?
When I started 7 years ago, it had just gotten put into effect that every utility had to do an arc flash analysis of their system. And then you had to have some type of tagging on your equipment that said what the arc flash level was, so that your employees knew what type of protective equipment they should be wearing when working on that equipment. Is that kind of your question, Mike?
Yeah, that's part of it. It says here 447.91. Is that for both things? The shield, if I recall, wasn't it a shield and a vest? Or no, shield and hat, I think.
Well, it all has to do with the calorie level. So right now, a lot of the, and this makes probably very little sense to people listening, but the 13,200 volt lines, your calorie level is actually only around a 2 calorie level. So a long sleeve shirt that's rated for more than 2 calories is sufficient. That, and if you're working on primary, you have rubber gloves and rubber sleeves.
Sleeves, yeah.
Yeah. But now the electric meter department, when they're disconnecting an electric meter and it's at the 480 volt level, if it's on a larger transformer, you can have calorie levels that can exceed 12, 16, and so forth. And so now they're required, when they're doing that type of a disconnect, to have a full helmet with a flash shield and the appropriate clothing on as well. So.
Well, that's what I was curious, because I was over to that meeting when they talked about OSHA bringing that in, and there was a lot of concern at the time of the cost.
Mm-hmm. And it's actually the National Fire Protection Agency that it dictates the policy when it comes to that. And it is very costly, but it's something that it's required to do for the safety of your employees. So.
But it's not that costly then?
Well, it does add up. I mean, you have the long sleeve shirts for the line crew that are all rated for that, and the other equipment that the electric meter department wears, and even the engineering department has it when they're out in the field. So
Plus time and cost to put the arc flash study together every year.
Yeah.
See what our requirements are.
Right.
We had to have long sleeve shirts, but we had to buy them ourselves. Yeah, boy, things have changed. Thank you.
Would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
Let's stop just a second. I just wanted to let everybody know that our budget was approved last night by the city. Is most everybody gonna be around next week? What's everybody's schedule look like? We have to get back together a couple times. One, we need a round of write-offs. We do have to discuss Apple Street again. Joe, Terry, and I, and Jeff, and Dale got together, was it Monday or Tuesday? I think it was Monday afternoon, and discussed that linked pilot and a lot of other things. So I wanted to bring you up to speed on where we're at with that. And then we have write-offs, and I'm sure we can probably put something else on the agenda. So is there any day that's bad for anybody next week, or real bad, or what?
I'm out of town through Wednesday, back Thursday, Friday.
Okay. Is everybody else around Thursday and Friday next week?
That's not the first of the month, though. Okay.
No.
That's fine.
Okay. All right, well, we'll shoot for those days. So I'm sorry, Commissioner. That's, Mr. Chair, that's all I had.
All right.
And yes.
Was somebody like to
Yes, I would.
My motion stands.
Second. All in agreement, please say aye.
Aye.